I'm gonna try to explain you why in a ZABBIX 7.0 timescale database with a hypertables is going to be even better than it was before. But before we start, if you want to help this channel, then please don't hesitate and click that subscribe button. First of all, what is timescale database? Well, it's one of the supported database engines that is supported by the ZABBIX, and basically it runs on top of the Postgres. So you're kind of using Postgres but on steroids, so it's called timescale database, and it has some tweaks. What tweaks? The main difference is that timescale database has a native partitioning. But what's the advantage of the partitioning? You know that we have a relational database for the ZABBIX, which is a mandatory thing where we keep all the configuration data and all the history data. And the thing is, the larger this database gets, the more problem it causes us. Natively, we have internal process called housekeeper. You probably know about it. And the larger your database is, the bigger the strain is going to be when a housekeeper is going to try to delete all the data from the database that is older than you want to keep. So partitioning is sort of a replacement of a housekeeper, and the difference is pretty simple. Let me show you on examples of what a hypertables is. So you can read in a timescale database documentation about how all of that works, but the most important thing that I want to show you is this picture. Like, this would be the normal table where we have ZABBIX housekeeper operating and what the housekeeper is doing. Like, we know that we have in our ZABBIX setting that we don't want to keep the data older than let's say 30 days. So every hour by default, the housekeeper goes to let's say history table and scans all the contents and finds what is older than the threshold that you specified and then deletes it. Instead, if you're using partitioning and if you're using the timescale database, the tables are converted to the hypertables. And as you can see, it's the same table, but now it has multiple chunks. And chunks are grouped by the time period. So in a simple words, you have a same table with a multiple chunks where one chunk represents 1 day of the data. So every time when it's time for retention and time to drop all data, you don't need an internal process like a housekeeper to scan all the table that might take like 200 gigs. Only thing that you do is look for the chunks and just drop, not delete, which is a different story, everything that is older than you want to keep. But why in a ZABBIX 7.0 it's going to be only better? Well, to understand that, we need to look in the roadmap, and in the roadmap, as I previously mentioned, some of the features are still in development because ZABBIX 7.0 is not officially released as a stable version, only as an alpha. And one of the ready features is conversion of audit logs in the audit log table in hypertable for timescale database. What is audit log? Audit log functionality was added quite recently. I don't really remember, I think in a ZABBIX 6.0, but basically right now, any step in a ZABBIX frontend or an API, create, delete, modify, move, copy, whatever else, any action in the frontend is written in the audit log. So there's no way you can hide from the audit. And as you might expect in a large installations where you have many items, many low-level discovery rules, and many users working in the frontend, the size of the audit log grows quite a lot. And you can see in this feature request ticket that it's just an example of real actual production system that the audit log table can grow to even 600 gigs. It can grow even larger. And obviously the audit log is just another table which is natively cleaned by the housekeeper, which, just like an example with a history, just scans the table, all the records, and checks which entry is older than you want to keep, than you specified in the front end. So in a ZABBIX 7.0, timescale database adds a native partitioning also to the audit log table. Why is that important? Well, because this one single table that can wait 600 gigabytes, can make all of your front end, and not only the front end, also the ZABBIX server itself, very, very slow. But what's the alternative? Like, you can disable the auditlog. Do you really want to do that? Probably not, because you want to keep all that security and audit information about your installation. So the best thing is do the partitioning, and a good thing that the auditlog table has all the requirements that are required by the partitioning. It has a primary key, and it also has a clock column. So honestly saying, it was quite an easy fix, but it's very valuable. So if you're using a TimescaleDB with a ZABBIX 7.0, you will be much happier. If you're just considering should you switch to the TimescaleDB, then know that ZABBIX 7.0 adds additional values to that.